$1,083, or I don't have another thumb. What's up, everyone? I am Interesting. I retired in 2021 to travel and eat full time. And today we're going to be talking about how much it costs to live, stay, or work remotely from Playa del Carmen. I'll be sharing our actual costs for two people across different categories that I'll throw up here. Stay tuned till the end of the video to see how close we came within budget. If you enjoy this video at any point, consider giving it a like or a comment. And if you're interested in seeing more videos like this or want to see where we go next, consider subscribing. So for the first category, the one that typically costs most folks the most, still working on making that number two, accommodation. So for our budgeted or forecasted monthly rent, we budget $1,250. In Playa del Carmen, this came in over budget at $1,362. This was our second highest rent during our 6-month trip in Mexico, and this was over the average of $1,083. This was definitely probably our nicest accommodation over the 6 months. And Playa del Carmen, the good thing about it is there's lots of inventory. So you can find many different Airbnbs. Seasonally, like when it's winter, the prices start to go up. So I think we snuck in there right before the Christmas rush. And that's why we were able to get a good deal in my opinion, even though we were still well over budget. And our next category, our second most expensive and definitely my favorite category, food and beverages. So we forecast or budget typically $1,000 a month for food and beverages. We came in at $823.88 for the month. This was our second highest monthly spend, or second highest spend for a city during our 6-month stay. And this was pretty close to the average, but over the average of $785. And when I keep referencing these averages, they are based on the previous 5 months of our 6-month Mexico trip. Within the wonderful category of food and beverage, I'll break this down even further. So within that, we spent $129.26 on groceries. This was actually our second highest spend during our trip, and we typically averaged about $103 on groceries per month. So there you have it, groceries. My favorite subcategory or section of food and beverage is restaurants. And again, sorry, for groceries and restaurants and alcohol and these, we don't actually have a forecast or budget just for that main food and beverage category. So we came in at $659.32 for restaurants. This came in a little over the average of $588, and this was our second highest food month or second most expensive food city. And within restaurants, we'll break this down even further to coffee and snacks, brunch or breakfast, lunch and dinner. But before we do that, we're gonna talk about bars. And in my last video, I was awkward because I defined what a bar is, but what a bar means in this exercise or budgeting is a place that's probably a bar, but that we didn't eat. So just typically somewhere we just got like beers or cocktails or something, and food likely wasn't involved. If food was involved, I'll probably throw it under restaurant, the more you know. So for bars, we spent $35.30. This was the lowest of our entire trip. I'm not sure why. I think there was only like 2 bars we ever really went to, and I think we only went to them once each. Typically, when we were drinking, it was either at home or at a restaurant, so that's why this was so low. Our average across our trip was $92. So this is like a third of the average. So this was really, really low. And again, the other categories we've talked about so far, it was like our second highest for everything until this category, which was the lowest. And then following or segueing from the category of bars, we also measure alcohol. So alcohol is anytime we drink at a bar, buy alcohol from the grocery store, or I don't have another thumb, or buy drinks with a meal. Typically that would be lunch or dinner, but maybe that could sneak into brunch as well. So for alcohol, we spent $210.28. This was, like bars, this was our lowest of the entire trip, below the average of $281. So not as stark of a contrast as bars, but still like 66-ish% or 2/3 of the average. So I guess we just weren't drinking a lot, even though when I look back to Playa del Carmen, I think about drinking tequila at the apartment or drinking at restaurants, I guess it's because we were just drinking like cheap beers, or we were getting just awesome deals from Walmart on like the $8 bottles of tequila. Okay, so hopping back to my favorite category, restaurants. So within the restaurant category, we talked about breaking it down. So we're gonna start off with coffee and snacks. So we went out for coffee 4 times and spent $29, or coffee trips, so it could be like pastry and coffee. And that was well above the average of $13. The reason this average is so low is this is a category I like created not at the beginning of the trip, so that is why we can almost ignore this one probably. But yeah, coffee and snakes. Following coffee and snacks or coffee trips, we've got breakfast or brunch. Jury's still out on the difference. We went out for brunch 10 times and spent $158.02. This was well above the average of $116. Our most inexpensive or cheapest brunch or breakfast was $5.65, and our most expensive brunch was $20.68. For lunch, we went out 9 times and spent $149.93. This was also above the average of $157. Our most inexpensive lunch was $9.57, and our most expensive lunch was $31.70 at Las Hijas de las Tostadas. I think this is a day where we went in on it for both the happy hour drinks and multiple seafood tostadas. Rounding out restaurants, we went out for dinner 16 times and spent $322.37. This was slightly above the average of $297. Our cheapest dinner was $4.50. This was a like taqueria, like Yucatecan spot by our place that I love, but very inexpensive. And our most expensive dinner was $39.47. This was at a nicer seafood restaurant where we got grilled octopus among some other tasty treats. Unfortunately, we're done talking about food momentarily. The next category is miscellaneous and activities. So we typically budget or forecast about $50 for this category per month. And this month we spent $59.90. This is pretty well over the average of $38. The reason for this one being a little higher this month is kind of twofold. So like Mexico City, we did some activities. So going to Accommodation and doing some stuff kind of out of town or outside of Playa del Carmen. And then the other thing we did that we had to do was get COVID tests. So the COVID tests alone were $34. So that kind of ate up that $50 budget very quickly. Good segue, if you're going to Playa del Carmen or probably Mexico in general, both trips we took when we came home, we got COVID tests at Farmacia del Ahorro. And now that I'm thinking about it, I guess our first 2 months in Puerto Vallarta in 2020, the US didn't require that yet. But yes, the cheapest we have found on both stints in Mexico is going to Farmacia del Ahorro, and it's only like $15 to $17 per person, which, you know, worst case, you spend like 25 bucks at the airport. And then the last category before we do the big unveil, transportation. So typically this is one we budget $200 per month. And for the purposes of this video, I'm not including flights, or I'll do that at the end, but we spent $50.90. The reason for this one was basically the bulk of the transportation budget in Playa del Carmen was getting from Cancun to Playa del Carmen on the ADO or ADO buses. That was like $21-ish for 2 people from the airport and back to the airport. We also spent some money on colectivos going again to like Akumal, and Yunji went to a cenote. If you do want to know the price of our flights, so from Mexico City to Cancun, we spent $125 for 2, so $62.50 per person to get from Mexico City to Playa del Carmen on Volaris. And then I didn't include this, but we spent like $260-ish or $270-ish to get from Cancun to LAX to go back home. All right, folks, drum roll or get excited, refill that popcorn. So our budget for Playa del Carmen, and mostly per month on this journey or trip, was $2,500. We came in at $2,296.68. So cha-ching, we came in under budget. That's the good news. The bad news was this was the second highest month or place on the 6-month trip. The average we spent per place or per month on this 6-month trip to Mexico was $1,954. So that is, we were like 15% above our average, but still 10% under our budget, 10, a little less, 8%, math is hard. But that is kind of everything. I kind of trimmed this one down. If you want to see a more in-depth or my most in-depth cost of living video, I'll link it here. It's the cost of living Mexico City stint 2, where I actually did everything kind of like this one, but I also did the lowest of each category and the highest of each category to kind of give you an idea on that variance. And then at the end of the video, I kind of put the summation of each little subcategory on the low and the high end to give you like a real variance on really how pared down it was, or if we just did the most extravagant of what we did using actuals. But let me know what you thought about this video. I wanted kind of a shorter one so that like the numbers and data could hit you faster. I'm planning to do a like summation or holistic, how much did our whole 6-month trip cost with like averages and highs and lows in it. And that one will include flights and kind of everything to give you an idea of if you and a friend or you and your partner or just you want to take a 6-month trip to Mexico, you know, what that would cost. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. If you liked this video, if I made you laugh a single time, or if you're just having a really good day, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing. But thanks for hanging out, and we'll be back with more videos like this soon. Thanks for watching.